This next app is another example of taking what is at its heart a very pure and simple and clean and small idea that gives them a ton of room for diving deep with it, both in terms of the technologies and the execution, and doing a lot of refinements and exploring that space. It's the kind of idea that you have to love it for the ability to say it in almost pretty much a sentence and everyone understands what you're talking about, but you also have all that freedom to keep exploring it.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being with us today. My name is Jessica Perina, and I'm joined by my teammates Ian Halbwachs, Konstantinos Pouliasis, and Jacquin Minninger. And we're here today to talk to you about our app, This That. Adults make on average 35,000 decisions every day, over 200 regarding food alone. Oftentimes, as the day wears on, the ability to make those decisions wanes until come 6:30, even the most trivial decision like what should I make for dinner or what shoes should I wear on this date can leave you stumped. And that's where This That comes in. Our app is for social decision making, and it allows users to pose questions that they're having difficulty with to friends, giving them the ability to crowdsource the decisions that they themselves are unable to make. We're inspired to make this app after long days of spending our mental energy on coding left us feeling the pain of indecision. So for more on how it works, I'm going to turn it over to my teammate, Ian.
Thanks, Jess. Although it was unfamiliar territory to us as developers, we knew we needed the immediacy and convenience of a mobile app to make this idea work. With This That, Jess can ask what shoes she should wear on her date. She can snap a couple of photos to better illustrate her dilemma, and she can let us know how soon she needs an answer. Now here we saw the opportunity to include a fun social aspect to our app because while nobody enjoys making tough decisions, everybody loves being heard. To that end, when I vote on Jess's question, I can include a comment making my case, and all participants in the question can view the running tally of votes and commentary, which makes it more engaging for everybody. It's a simple enough idea, and we had a lot of fun with it, although we did face some challenges along the way that forced us to learn new technologies and libraries as a team. And to tell you a little more about that, I'm going to hand it over to Konst.
Thanks, Ian. One of the main technical challenges we had to face here was the fact that in this type of application, even a single user interaction might cause a whole sequence of synchronous and asynchronous side effects that relate our backend with the front-end Redux store. For example, when a user creates one of these questions, first we have to make an asynchronous call to Amazon Web Services, and upon the success of this asynchronous call, we make another asynchronous call to a Postgres database in Heroku, and finally we change the view of the user in the front end by changing the Redux store of state of the application. To handle such a synchronicity, we decided that instead of using the library Redux Tank that we were all familiar with during the full stop curriculum, we would use a new way of handling synchronicity, mainly the library Redux Sagas. Using Redux Sagas, we were able to get all the advantages of Redux Tank. That is, we still have a very unified way of handling synchronous and asynchronous actions, but on top of that, the library, instead of using promise chains, it promotes the usage of generator functions and yield. By using such generator functions, we were actually able to write such asynchronous code that has a very, very sequential flavor in a modular, easily testable, and natural way. Now about some challenges that we face on the front end, I'm going to pass the microphone to my teammate Ian.
Thanks, Konst. When we realized that our idea was going to take the form of a mobile application, we opted to use React Native to render our front-end views. React Native is a JavaScript wrapper around native software that allows us to build a single application on top of both the iOS and Android operating systems using React's modular framework. During the design process, we felt it imperative that the user be able to interact with our content without getting distracted by a constant page switching and view changing. The user should be able to see all the questions that their friends have asked him or her, be able to vote on those questions, even leave an opinionated comment, all before seeing what other people in the community have been saying, all without leaving the page, all without leaving the feed, all without having to go from question to question. To do this, we ultimately use React Native Router Flux, which allowed us to both allow the user to interact with content via modal pop-ups and to smoothly transition whenever we did need to change views. It allowed us to define our 7 transitions in a single central location, and we didn't have to pass around any navigator objects. We even used it in some of our sagas to change views following asynchronous calls to our server. So thank you very much for coming. This is the developer team behind this, that, and we really hope that you'll be able to use it to lighten your cognitive load in the future. Thank you.
Oh, I like this idea. I think it's well executed. It looks great. I don't know if it actually lightens your cognitive load. It just offsets your cognitive load to other people. But I also think that what's really cool about it is that it's kind of like Twitter polling meets Snapchat. So I could definitely see an acquisition in the future. We should them. Yeah.
I've also heard it described as Tinder for decisions.
Yeah. Well done. It looks great. It looks great. I think I hope to see the App Store soon.
It's fun to use. Yeah.
Yeah. I also really want to emphasize that what they talked about in terms of Redux Saga and generators, something that I'm always very excited about with Capstone projects is how our students by now have synthesized all of our curriculum and are going out and teaching themselves things that not only do we not teach them specifically, but in many cases we don't actually even know ourselves. I've looked at sagas before, I've never used them, I've never practiced them. They just said, you know what, this is going to solve our problems and we're going to learn it, and that's how they, developed our application in a very independent fashion.
The JavaScript community itself needs this or that, because we are also making like Redux Saga versus this or React Angular. So
observable.
one day, yeah, it's meta project.